After 70 long years in exile, the Jewish people returned to Jerusalem. Can you imagine the joy they felt, stepping onto their homeland again? They had wept by the rivers of Babylon, longing for this day. Now, they were home. God had stirred the heart of King Cyrus of Persia, and he allowed the Jewish exiles to return. More than that, he commissioned them to rebuild the temple, the house of God, which lay in ruins. What a joyous yet daunting task. They were home, yes, but rebuilding their city and their temple would take courage and hard work. The Jewish people wasted no time. They set up an altar, cleared away the rubble, and laid the foundation of the temple. Their hearts overflowed with hope. They could almost hear the music of worship echoing in the courtyard, see the priests offering sacrifices, smell the incense rising to heaven. Little did they know trouble was brewing. Their return and this grand project had not gone unnoticed by their neighbors. Jealousy and fear would soon cast a shadow over their newfound joy. The Jewish people were not alone in the land. Other people groups lived there too, people who had been moved in by the Assyrian kings years before. These people, whom the Bible calls the people of the land, did not worship the God of Israel. When they saw the Jews rebuilding the temple, they became worried. Maybe they feared the Jews would become too powerful, or maybe they envied their faith in God. Whatever the reason, they decided to stop the rebuilding work. These people approached the Jews and offered to help with the construction, but their offer wasn't genuine. They wanted to infiltrate the project, to sabotage it from within. The Jewish leaders wisely refused their offer, knowing these people did not share their faith or their goals. This refusal angered the people of the land. They became enemies of the Jews and looked for ways to discourage and disrupt the work. They used threats, intimidation, and even violence to frighten the Jewish people. The people of the land were persistent. When their initial attempts to stop the work failed, they devised a new plan. They would write letters to the Persian kings, hoping to turn them against the Jews. They wrote to King Cyrus first, then later to his successors, spreading lies and accusations about the Jewish people. These letters were full of deceit. They accused the Jews of rebellion, claiming they were rebuilding the temple to establish their own kingdom and defy the Persian Empire. This was a clever tactic, playing on the Persian king's fears of uprising and rebellion. The enemies of the Jews knew that if they could convince the king that the Jews were a threat, he would put a stop to the temple construction. The people of the land were cunning and relentless, and sadly their tactics began to work. Year after year they sent these letters, hoping to wear down the resolve of the Persian kings, and to crush the spirit of the Jewish people. Section 4, a royal decree, a work halted. The constant stream of accusations from the enemies of the Jews eventually took its toll. King Artaxerxes, who succeeded Cyrus on the throne of Persia, received one of these deceitful letters. He was persuaded by the lies it contained and issued a decree to stop the work in Jerusalem. Armed with the king's orders, the enemies of the Jews marched into Jerusalem. They used force and intimidation to halt the construction. The joyful sounds of hammers and chisels fell silent. The once hopeful atmosphere over the Temple Mount was replaced by discouragement and fear. The Jewish people were devastated. Their enemies had used the power of the Persian king to crush their dreams. The work on the temple, begun with such joy and hope, was now at a standstill. It seemed their enemies had won, but even in the face of this setback, God's people did not give up hope. They continued to pray, seeking his guidance and strength. They knew that the God who had delivered them from exile in Babylon was still faithful, and they trusted that he would, in his perfect timing, make a way for his temple to be rebuilt. Section 5, Hope Renewed. The work on the temple remained at a standstill for several years, but God's people never lost hope. During the reign of King Darius, the prophet Haggai and the prophet Zechariah began to encourage the people to resume the building project. Their words sparked a renewed sense of purpose and determination in the hearts of the Jewish people. King Darius, unlike his predecessor, was a just and fair ruler. He ordered a search of the royal archives, and there, they found the original decree of Cyrus, authorizing the Jews to rebuild the temple. Darius honored the decree of Cyrus and issued his own decree, not only allowing the Jews to continue the work, but also providing resources and protection from their enemies. With renewed hope and the full support of the Persian king, the work on the temple resumed. This time, there were no interruptions, no delays. The people worked with great enthusiasm and diligence, grateful to God for his faithfulness and eager to see his house rebuilt. Finally, after years of struggle and setbacks, the temple was completed. The story of the rebuilding of the temple is a powerful reminder that even in the face of opposition, God is faithful to his promises. It teaches us the importance of perseverance, prayer, and trusting in God's timing. Though the enemy may try to hinder God's work, ultimately God's purposes will prevail.